The XRP price could be about to surge from 45 cents to 61 cents. In today's video, we'll be jumping down into the technical analysis, breaking down the various different indicators and sharing my thoughts and opinions on the XRP price prediction for the short to medium term. As I get into today's video, guys, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, subscribe and stay up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Guys, let's roll the intro and get right down into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another XRP video update, and we are discussing the technical analysis here for XRP. So XRP paired up with USDT, here we have the one-day Binance chart. Now it's very important that we understand what that means, right? Why I open these videos up with one-day or weekly charts, and why I tell you the time frame in which the analysis is created. Following on from the previous video, we saw a lot of negativity in the comments section because it didn't have an instantaneous price prediction, right? Ultimately, the video went out and people were expecting an immediate reaction to the price action after the video. That is not the purpose of these videos. These videos are daily and weekly charts. That essentially means that we're talking about price predictions that are going to be over several days or weeks. We are talking about longer term, okay, not micro movements. We're not talking about price action reacting within the 1 to 4 hour time period after the video was created. We're talking about what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen the week after, multiple weeks in the future, and the price predictions of where I think things are heading. So just understand that this is a daily time frame. I expect this to be something that plays out over several weeks, although timing the market is not something that I can do. I cannot give you an exact date and time stamp as to when I think the analysis will be completed, because that's very, very difficult to do, and very few people can do that kind of advanced technical analysis. A lot of people are, of course, finger in the air, but I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you my thoughts and opinions as to where I think things are heading, and I'll let the TA play its course. Now, the last video, I was talking about a move to the downside. We're actually targeting out 35 cents. And, well, our minimum expectation was 41.88. And that is still very much valid. We are still looking for those bearish moves to the downside. However, before we can get into those, I expect us to actually surge up a little bit more before we go down. And I'm going to break down why I think this. Well, here we obviously saw a breakdown of our lower lows, lower highs and higher lows out of this triangular wedge here. We saw the breakdown. I spoke about this in the previous video. We were expecting the move to the downside. This move to the downside, though, is actually showing me with a bit more confidence in the market. Okay, we might actually see more volatility for sure. It's definitely possible that we do. But I'm also looking at this as the idea of maybe we're still in an upward correction up towards 61 cents before we actually get that next leg down. Okay, and there's a few reasons for this, and I'm going to try to break those down for you today. The move that we saw here is showing us with an immense amount of buying pressure. What the wick there symbolizes. It's also something that we saw over this side here, right? This shows that we have a lot of buying pressure as the price came down here. Okay, lots of liquidation events would have occurred as well for anyone using leverage, which would have forced them into buying, and so we see these wicks. Okay, these wicks essentially are showing us with the idea that actually there's a lot more room to the upside, and there's basically an appetite for buying at some of these lower levels, right? And we do obviously have some resistances that we're going to have to break on through. We can see them on here on the daily chart. That's obviously the 50 EMA, the 50 SMA, the 200 daily EMA, and so forth. And we are definitely in a bearish position for XRP, considering where the price action is in relation to those moving averages. But one of the things that we have to consider here is what's already happened. We can see here that there is this idea of maybe a three-wave correction. Now, if I measure the distances on all of this, using Elliott wave theory, which is obviously the tool that's been very predictive over where all the price action has been heading, you can see that we have come down deeper than the 1.236. This is an indication that we might see a little bit more volatility here into what will be known as a Z wave before it kind of finishes off. And if we go ahead and kind of move this over to our previous swing high, which will be currently where we are, then we could potentially be looking at 46 to 42 cent before we actually get into that next kind of leg upwards. Okay, so just be in mind there's going to be more volatility here. I don't think we're necessarily complete with the move to the downside, but buying pressure I think is going to remain, and we're likely to see more of a surge to the upside. But the longer term picture is quite interesting to me. If we measure this distance over here and we pull it over to our initial kind of bounce, we can actually see that we're kind of well within its range. We're still obviously deeper than a 1.236, but nonetheless it is giving us the idea that we're in that kind of sweet spot. Now, why do I mention this? Well, not only do we have the overlapping candlestick nature of everything that's going on here, showing us that we're in no trend to the downside, just short-term corrections, then we should be thinking about the reversal. And I look at this through the lens of the fact that we haven't yet gone down deeper than 41.88 cent. And if we can't go down deeper, okay, so if we manage to hold that area, let's just take yesterday's low as an example, right, coming in at 45.08. If we hold that there, we can see that we have the idea of a three-wave correction to the upside, which would be looking like this here, taking us out towards 61 cent. Okay, this would still be bearish though, because it's a part of a bigger correction here, where I would then have to look at this through the lens that we were actually in just some kind of correction down towards that 35 cent that we were talking about in the previous videos, right? Still all valid. There isn't a breakdown here where it isn't looking likely to see that move down, but a relief rally after a significant downward move in the market, I think, is something that we could potentially be expecting. Now, obviously, all of this is just potentials because it's rules and it's all probability, meaning that there's a probability that we continue the move to the downside, and there's a probability that we have this relief rally up to 61 cents. I think there's a higher probability that we move up rather than moving down, and this is backed up by the stochastic RSIs, which are a momentum-based indicator. The indicator shows us that actually there is potentially upward momentum coming here for XRP on the monthly, weekly, daily, 8-hourly timeframes, meaning they are not small moves to be expected, but potentially larger ones. Now, it's true that the stochastic RSI does not have a direct relationship with price action. Instead, it only shows you the strength in the movements of the price. And what I mean by this is it cannot be used as an indicator of bullish or bearishness, but used to kind of confirm other analysis that you are doing from or drawing on the price action. So if your price action analysis, whether your Elliott wave theory, smart money concepts, whatever it is that you're using, you use the stochastic RSI, you use a relative strength index, you might use a MACD, something else to help you understand whether you'll get a confirmation of bearishness or bullishness. Okay, but you cannot use the stochastic RSI in isolation. And what I mean by all of this is that it can remain overbought or oversold for a very long period of time, and you can get trapped into positions, maybe even get wrecked and liquidated if you're using leverage. So just bear in mind that we have still got potentially some downward momentum here. We're not yet finishing off our daily stochastic RSI. Although it is oversold, we can see that the white line here is yet to actually move down into the oversold area. The white line is the smoothing of K, i.e. the average of the stochastic RSI, and you'll look for a cross with the yellow line, the actual stochastic, crossing higher than the average. That will be your bullish turn in the market. Okay, so it'll be interesting to keep a close eye on the stochastic RSI. The divergence indicator also has dropped down quite a bit, and we can see that the relative strength index here, the yellow line, can continue to move down or also rally up. Okay, we can see that we have completely shifted any idea of support levels. Again, we can see that on the price action, but you can also see it on the relative strength index here. So again, we'll look at this slightly bearishly, but I'm looking for us to bottom out soon and then start that reversal to the upside. Okay, I'm not thinking that we're going to go straight down to 35 cent. I think that's probably going to be a couple of months out at this point in time. Okay, so stochastic RSI, interesting. MACD, I don't like it. It's very laggy, but people like to use it nonetheless. I did adjust this one to try to make it less laggy, and you can see it has had a bit of a negative print on the histogram. We can see the moving averages looking bearishly here, but again, I'm not going to use this one to try to get confirmations of anything. Volume profiles have obviously been dropping. We can take a look at this. So as volumes, as price action was raging sideways, volumes were dropping down, and as we had this move to the downside yesterday, volume did pick up. You can see the selling volumes are higher than the buying volumes at the moment. Okay, so again, we'll look at that unfortunately as a bit of a negative for now. But for the most part, we take a look at these things and I say to myself, yeah, there's probably a higher probability here of a move higher than there is lower. And then once we kind of reset all of those stochastic RSIs, momentum-based indicators back to the overbought area, we're probably going to be looking for moves to the downside. Okay, but again, lots can change, and we'll be looking for anything lower than 41.88 to confirm bearish moves, and we'll be looking for anything higher than its previous swing high at 50. What is that one? 55. Yeah, 57.15, sorry. So anything higher than 57.15 is going to be basically bullish confirmation. Okay, so we kind of find ourselves in between these two levels. Basically, anything lower than 41.88, bearish, anything higher than 57.15, bullish. Okay, now if we did get a closed position above the 200-day EMA, also going to give you an early indication to bullishness, and that will be 55.38. Okay, so lots of things to kind of keep in mind here for XRP. Smart money concepts is in a bearish structure. Again, we saw this with a change of character. You guys probably struggle to see that on the screen there, but it's right here. This is a bearish change of character, but we haven't had any bullish changes just yet. Okay, not on the daily time frame. You can see that there's one here. This is a shorter time frame, and that change of character into a bearish structure, this one confirming it. So on the smaller time frames, you can see bearishness quite clearly. On the daily time frame, we haven't got confirmation of it, but we are looking for these things. We have a stronger high, and we are lower than equilibrium, and we have a weak low. These are an indication of more bearishness to be seen for XRP, in my opinion. Any rallies higher are going to be finding that equilibrium is going to be your resistance area, and it's no coincidence this is coming in around 60 cents, which is where we are looking for that price action to go. We'll be looking at the equilibrium for any close price action above it. That will be also a bullish tell, but I think we're probably only going to wick up into this range and find resistance. This red area here, this is selling pocket, so it's order block of sell pressure historically coming in right here. So that's also going to be your resistance. That's coming in at 60 to 64 cents. So you can see that this is going to hold as resistance, in my opinion. But of course, you know, we'll see how things kind of play out for XRP. But on the daily time frame, not confident in long-term price pushes higher than 75 cents. I think that swing high is likely to stay, and we're going to see significant slippage to the downside after a relief rally upwards. Okay, so yeah, everything's still kind of on track as per the previous videos for XRP. Look at the weekly time frame. You can see obviously we're looking at this move to the downside, this correction, which could actually end up anywhere between 33.46 and 46.16 as the final movement. And it's possible that we've already achieved such a move, right? It's possible that we've completed our bearish moves here for XRP, but at the same time, I don't think that's the case. I do think we're likely to see a little bit more to the downside where we complete off this pattern. On a macro scale, this weekly chart, the analysis here takes months to play out, right? We're talking about bull market endgame scenarios. We're not talking about what's going to happen next week. We're talking about what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 months down the line, maybe even 12 months down the line, right? And that's kind of what the weekly chart is helping us understand. We've got a fantastic structure forming here on a weekly time frame for XRP. So although we might see more volatility on the daily and the smaller time frames, the weekly is quite clear that we are finding pretty decent positions. Now, there are some unfortunate things going on with XRP on the weekly that's also worth noting. Our 200 weekly EMA is basically our support lifeline at the moment. And this week is looking quite bearish at the moment. We need to close above that area of 50.59 cents on the Sunday close. If we cannot do that, then I think the bears are going to feel a little bit more confident going into next week. But like I said, and I've said this many times from many of these weekly videos, we can see that we're being pinched between the 200 weekly EMA and the 50-week EMA. And basically, you've got resistance on the 50 SMA, the 50 EMA, while support is being found on the 200 EMA. And it does look more and more likely that we're going to find a bit of a breakdown than it is going to rally on up. This breakdown, I believe, will be shorter term, and we will start a rally afterwards. Okay, so I'm looking at this as a huge opportunity to accumulate anywhere really between 33.46 and 46.16, after which we are, of course, looking for a very aggressive move to the upside. For XRP, we are looking for new all-time highs, and we're looking to target out $5.59 upwards towards the $11.26. This target hasn't changed. And it is a target that many people will disagree with, but it is a target nonetheless that I think is the most probable. Okay, if we see some fantastic reasons and logics as to why XRP will have an increase in significant demand that pushes the price action higher, fantastic. I'm not going to kind of hold my breath on that, but should there be something, fantastic. If not, we have a reasonable target to be expecting a move out towards, with key notes also being around $2.31, $2.96. These are areas, actually $1.80, $2.31, $2.96. These are key areas on the Fibonacci sequencing levels. We saw previous resistance on the 1.618 coming in at $1.80. We have the 702 historically Bitcoin XRP lover 702 fib level. This is coming in at $2.31, and then the 0.786 is coming in at $2.96. Another area of resistance closes above all of those will be bullish. Any rejections will be bearish. So on a macro scale, we'll be monitoring all of those levels as well. Guys, that's going to wrap up today's video on XRP. If you have found it useful, informative, smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Guys, why don't you check out this video right here where we discuss a bit more about what is going on in the crypto space. This is one you're not going to want to miss.